Dr. Andy Randolph. He is technical director at Earnhardt Childress Racing. Nobody understands how fuel works and how ethanol works better than Dr. Andy. Welcome back to Agritalk, sir. How are you?
Hello, Chip. Nice to talk to you again.
Good. I'm glad that you are here. Here's what Zero Hedge said. Normally, only a 10% ethanol blend can be sold during that time period, summer, to reduce smog caused by the 15% blend's higher volatility. What's the truth?
Oh, it would be nice if they looked at the truth before they wrote those stories.
Yep.
The truth is 30 years ago, Congress passed the Clean Air Act. And what the Clean Air Act did was establish a maximum allowable vapor pressure for E10, for 10% ethanol gasoline blends. Now, the reason vapor pressure is important is that's the measure of a propensity of a fuel to evaporate. So in the summer months, when it gets hotter, a fuel with a higher vapor pressure will have more tendency to vaporize. Of course, you have evaporative emissions canisters in cars, and evaporative emissions are just a tiny sliver relative to tailpipe emissions. But nevertheless, it is a contributor, so they passed that standard. At the time, though, 30 years ago, they didn't envision there would be such a thing as E15. So the statute specifically applies to E10. Now, when you increase the ethanol concentration to E15, you actually reduce the vapor pressure. You're reducing the volatility and reducing the evaporative emissions. But because the standard applied only to E10, E15 isn't included in the standard, and thus there has to be some kind of a waiver to make it happen. So it's it's silly because it's actually less volatility than E10, but the standard unfortunately didn't have the foresight at the time it was passed to accommodate other ethanol concentrations.
Boy, that seems simple enough to understand, but the ability of, okay, let's do this. So somebody walks up to an ethanol supporter and says, I can't believe E15 and all the smog is going to be available again this summer. What is the easy way to transfer that knowledge to a consumer that has that misconception in their head?
I would simply say that the truth is E15 has less smog potential, has less volatility than E10. It's just that any statutes that have ever been written are specific to E10, thus E15
Gotcha.
isn't included. But E15 is actually a better fuel from a smog standpoint, from a price standpoint. Big difference in price right now with what's going on with the price of oil. It just makes so much more sense to have it as an option.
Yeah. Well, it makes even more sense to have an E20 or even an E30 out there, doesn't it?
Well, yes. Well, what happens when ethanol concentrations get once you get above E30 or so, the vapor pressure of ethanol gasoline blend actually becomes less than the vapor pressure of gasoline. So you actually start to get into situations in the winter months where the vapor pressure is too low. So everyone's complaining about the vapor pressure being too high, but really there may eventually come a time, and I hope there does come a time, when we're worrying about the converse, where the vapor pressure is too low, making it hard to start an engine on a very cold day.
Right, exactly.